Julia, welcome back to Podcastina.
Thanks for having me back.
It's so good to have you out here visiting me in Texas.
I'm not holding my mic close enough. Yes, I am in Austin. I am visiting you. You know this.
First impressions of the city? Well, second impressions because you've been here before.
Humid. And I did not know how much people were going to... Okay, I shouldn't judge the music scene based on one venue that's across from my hotel. But I was like, it's a lot of screamo. Where's the honky tonk I thought was going to be? Is that... Am I not supposed to say honky tonk?
No, you're it's called a honky tonk.
That's the genre. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be like banjo and it stands like, like, it's like that type of music coming
Instead, it's one of my favorite bands. How funny is that?
If it's one of your favorite bands, no one's sleeping anywhere near.
What are you looking forward to right now?
In life in general?
Mm-hmm.
Probably just to see what the next year holds. Everything has been such a surprise. Like, I'm constantly amazed by how every year, the year before, I would have never guessed that that's what was going to be going on in my life. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, so it's May 2026. May 2025, everyone started using AI in place of copywriters. And my income was slashed by like 75% in the matter of a month. As because I'm a copywriter, or was, still am kind of. And I was like, I have no idea what I'm going to do for money. I have literally no idea what I'm going to do. I was like applying for depressing jobs I didn't want. I was like creating a rover profile, and I was like prepared for a life that just sucks, where I was like going to some job that like sucked the life out of me and did not pay enough. And then I just randomly, as you know, started making this content about being a child-free woman on social media. Not even knowing what the plan is. I just know I did one that did well. And I was like, well, we'll do this subject again. And then another one. And then it's just like 30 videos later, I start making money on social media videos. And I'm like suddenly don't have to apply to crappy jobs. And also, I didn't take some that I was offered because this little slice of faith in me was like, you know, you're not desperate right now, like financially. So don't make desperate decisions. Like, don't lock yourself into a life that you'll hate when you don't have to. There are people who they don't have a choice, and like I feel terrible for them. They have no other option. I was like, but you almost owe it to yourself as someone who does have the option to take the option.
Yeah.
And that's and thank God, because then I started putting all this time into social media. And now it's like my life is transformed.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so that happened in a matter of a year. So what will happen in the matter of next year? I don't know.
Anything. And with these creative pursuits, it really, like, we're lucky it can just kind of go one way or the other completely overnight. Like, we've seen so many people's lives change overnight with it.
Yeah, it does. Does it ever freak you out to think about like how much of it is possibly not in our control?
It does, and I've had to, I think you would like this. So recently I had a friend tell me to make lists whenever I'm feeling kind of out of sorts. As you know, I had like a tough couple of weeks last month where I was just like really trying to forge ahead with the podcast and book bigger guests and really like expand who I'm asking to do the show. And it was really depleting for me to have so many people not get back to me or say no. And it's so normalized now for people to just not even bother saying no or answering at all. So that sucks too, because it just like hits on that lizard brain part where you're like, oh, I'm just getting fully ignored. Like, I just feel so isolated. Yeah. I would almost prefer people say no to me so that I can like close that loop and be like, I have an answer. I have a no. It's okay. Yeah. It's like getting left in the dark is a pretty painful part of it. But where the hell was I going with that? Oh, that...
You're talking about things being out of our control.
Things being out of our control. So I'm talking to a friend about it, and she goes, well, why don't you make a list of things that are in your control and things that aren't? And so I've been doing that lately. I should do it every day, honestly. It feels so good to me to just write it out and look at it. But I've been making these lists, and it's 2 columns. And one column is things I can control, and the second column is just titled, Give It to God. And so I'll write in the column that I can control, send 3 booking requests, post on social media. And then I'll write in the Give It to God column, people answering, because I have no control of that. Yeah. how something performs online. And so
Oh, okay.
just kind of,
So it's a direct correlation to like what's in the I can control
yeah.
list. Okay, yeah.
And then just really only focusing on what I actually can control and being like, you did all the things today. So why send yourself down this like negative spiral over the outcome, which again, I have no control over the outcome. So like, why don't I just give myself a little bit of credit for doing the things that I could have done, the only things I could have done?
Yeah.
It feels better.
Yeah. That's yeah. That's been something I've struggled with in the past too. I like to tell myself I only think about the things that I can control, but no, my brain is always going on like it's like, well, what if this or what if that?
Yeah,
but
of
if this
course.
doesn't, then happen, then this is gonna happen or whatever. It's natural.
What do you feel like is a common response to doing child-free content? Because that there's a reason that that blew up for you. People are really finding it polarizing, I think. Is there like a common response that you see above all the other responses?
Oh, well, the most common one is actually like a positive one that makes me really happy,
Yeah.
which is that, and I will say this, the most common one that makes me happy is something I would like people who say another common thing to know about. Because of course there's people who are like, this content is stupid. Why are you making this? Who cares? Like, it's weird to make child-free content. How can you make content about something you're not and something that you don't have and everything about it? And there's also people that are like, this is negative. This is making family and parenthood look bad or whatever. But then on the other side of it, I get DMs every day across all platforms. Almost every day I'll get a DM from someone who's like, your page is everything to me. I'm part of a community where like not having kids is incredibly weird. I get judged all the time for it. And just like being able to watch these videos that are just a reflection of my experiences and somehow I'm laughing at them they're like, it just makes it all better. And I'm like, that's why I make the videos. I'm not making these videos for parents. And like, yes, sometimes I make videos where parents are being shitty to child-free people because guess what? It happens. You know what I mean? And like with anything, not all parents, not all men, not all blah, 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 blah. But it does happen. And everyone, like, I think there's always value in content that helps us laugh at situations that are painful and hard for us.
Oh, yeah.
So no, I'm not going to make videos about just an interaction between a child-free person and their family that just goes so lovely. And everyone is just embraces their choice and celebrates it. And it's not that those things aren't happening, but people don't need comforting or comical content around those moments. They don't, you know what I mean? Those moments are fine, so let them be. They need to be able to laugh and vent and like commiserate over the moments that suck. So yes, all the videos are about the moments that can suck. Not because those are the only moments that exist, but because that's what we need comedy around.
That's where people find the healing of, oh, okay, somebody else who's decided to be child-free is also dealing with the backlash from their parents who want to be grandparents,
Right.
or their community who's looking at you like, because I think what happens is it makes unsure parents feel like they're being poked at, maybe. Like maybe it's something they're insecure about and they're like, oh, well, why are you rubbing it in my face that I shouldn't have been a parent?
I mean, yeah, definitely. Because I will also tell you, like, there's a lot of moms that follow my stuff and love it. And they're very vocal about it too. They're like, I'm a mom, but just so you know, like, I show your stuff to my kids because I want them to know that they have options and I want them to be fully informed because I know that most of the messaging out there is like, motherhood is just the best. End of story. and they're like, I want them to know the whole picture, both sides, what both trajectories could look like. Monty's doing a lot of those scratchies, squishy scratchies. So yeah, I think those ones like feel secure in it where probably the parents who are upset by it have maybe struggled to to really find the positive in their experience as parents. Maybe they're having a hard time being happy with it at the moment. And so it's like with anything, like if we're afraid that something might be true for us, it's upsetting to see it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If we're afraid that maybe we shouldn't have had kids or low-key, we're actually not enjoying this as much as we pretend to, then seeing anything that reflects that is upsetting. Whereas like if you feel completely solid in your choice and you know that you love it, like, you know, it's almost like, you know how some people that are part of a religion refuse to be exposed to any content from different religions.
Mm-hmm.
And that tells you that that is a person who is like weak in their faith, because someone who is strong in it is happy to like hear all kinds of ideologies. They're like, you can throw rocks at my choices. I feel firm in them. You can throw rocks at them. You know what I mean? So yeah. Does that answer?
It definitely does, because it's like those parents that get really insecure about it. It's like a glass house, essentially, that they're like, well, maybe I felt pressured to be a parent. I can't admit that.
Yeah.
You feel like you're the worst person in the world if you're a parent saying, I wish I wasn't a parent, because that would be life-ruining information for your child to hear.
Right.
And it doesn't negate, it's this like paradox, which is so hard for people to like hold a paradox. And I've been thinking about this like a lot lately. You can love your child and love your child so much and still like regret having your child, and just being able to hold those ideas at the same time,
Yeah.
I think is really hard for people. And so it probably feels like an attack when they're seeing child-free content. I think they wouldn't even be seeing child-free content if they weren't interacting with it, right? Like our algorithms are so locked in, they're so eerily specific at this point for everybody, that I think if you're already feeling some kind of tinge of regret about your choice to be a parent and you're getting fed child-free content, it's because you're interacting with it. So you've already gone down that lane of thinking of like, oh, maybe this wasn't the best choice for me.
Yeah. But you are right in that like the two things can be true. Some of the coolest parents who comment on my stuff, they will say, listen, if I could have done things differently, I wouldn't have had kids. I love my kids more than anything, but I can also acknowledge the different way my life would have gone if I hadn't, or maybe just hadn't when I had. Mm-hmm. Like a lot of times it'll be moms that are maybe like in their late 30s through late 40s who had kids when they were like 20 or 21 years old, and who will honestly be like, I regret having them as early as I did. Obviously, like I embrace the cool things that happened as a result too. But if I could do everything like eyes wide open with all the information I have now, I wouldn't have them at 21 like I did or whatever. And I tell my own children, don't do that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's almost like, you know, the like Brene Brown, like in her Leading Greatly, whatever it's called book, she talks about shame and how some people, they cannot, like some of the people who are like the most like narcissistic, the most like always chest puffed up, never apologize, never admit fault. They have this belief deep down that if they admit a fault, that is the equivalent of saying that they are worthless entirely.
Right.
Which is just not true. But if you think that's true, you will always be like, I've never done anything wrong. I'm perfect. Like, because it's so scary. So I think like the parents who are, some parents feel that saying, oh, I wish I had had them later, or I can see maybe it wasn't the best choice. Like they feel like that's the same as saying, I don't love my kids, but it's not the same as saying that. But if they think it's the same, then like they'll be very reactive to child-free content because they can't let it in any way, because they don't want to admit any of those feelings for themselves of maybe I should have done this differently, because they think that's admitting a whole other thing that it's not. It's not saying they don't love their kids, but like they might think that's what it's saying.
It's such a difficult conversation, and so people are really afraid to have it, I think. And you probably get DMs of people who are like, hey, low-key, I regret this, but there's just nowhere for me to even voice this.
I'm trying to remember if no, you know, what's funny enough is like, those are not the DMs. Those are actually public comments. I get public comments like that. I do. The DMs are more from people who want to tell me how meaningful the content is to them. Mm-hmm. Some of the moms are hilarious. They'll put that publicly.
It almost seems, and I think just because like men will complain about the like absence, I think men get specifically really mad about child-free content, because if women want to be child-free, now it means that men, as a consequence of like women's decisions, end up being, they have children taken away from them or something like that. What do you see from like men who are commenting?
I mean, at the end of the day, it's funny because no, that's not true. I actually, it's not like I really know I don't know the gender of everyone that comments, because sometimes I'm fortunate enough to get so many comments. Like, I don't know, their profile picture is an avatar of a pineapple, so I don't know who's commenting. You know what I mean? But here's what I'll say. In terms of people who are also creating content about this subject matter, that I can see if it's a man or woman, all the videos of men talking about like child-free stuff is always the ones that like have negative things to say about it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really see like that much content from child-free men who are like as celebratory about it as women are. Like, just, I'm sure it exists, but it's like not even nearly as close to the female-made content. But when there's men, mostly if men are making a video about child-free women, child-free lifestyle, it is conservative-leaning men who think you should protect traditional family, nuclear family. A lot of them will say that women who don't want kids are mentally ill.
Yeah.
That we have like an agenda to create some feminist military and like we're witches. I don't know, like just like
we are
the craziest stuff. And I don't know if it's conscious or subconscious that they want to look. Motherhood does not need to keep a woman down, but we all know that having kids makes every other pursuit a million times harder. And I don't want any parents arguing with that, because that's all the first thing they'll tell me is that their life is much harder than mine. You know what I mean? So it's like that everyone knows having kids makes everything much, much harder. Everyone also knows that women take on the majority of childcare. And it's not even, can I swear?
Yeah.
It's not even fucking close. Do you know what I mean? Like, even in the couple, it's just like natural. Even in the couples, I have many couples friends where it's like they both take care of the kids. But what that means is that when the dad's in charge, he just interrupts the mom every second to ask how everything's done. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? There's no autonomy. So she's not really off duty. Mm-hmm. Yes, he will do it all. The bathing, the bedtime, whatever. But every time, which thing do they eat? Which one of the things do they? Whereas when it's her in charge, he truly gets to enjoy his off-duty time. She's not asking him questions. The point being is, inevitably, other aspirations become much harder once you have kids. If you happen to be a woman, it'll be even harder. Do these men know that? Do they want that for women? I don't know. But I know that some of them have a lot of shit to say about women who don't want kids. Yeah. And I don't know why they care. It's not like really any of their individual problems, you know, other than like a nefarious or just like not very nice agenda.
Well, I just think and this is not an original idea. We see this online a lot, but women going, I wish I could be a dad.
Yes.
It's like, that seems so much more inspirational. Yeah. And it's like, I know this so deeply because I nanny and babysit so much. I see that exact thing of, it's like, yeah, the dads that I work with, they're very involved, but at the end of the day, you can't breastfeed, so she has to be around. And if she doesn't get to the breastfeeding in time, her boobs are going to hurt. There's going to be an issue. And like, that's just what the child needs. I was just babysitting for a new family last week, and it was an 11-month-old baby who's still being breastfed. And at one point he got really upset because he just like needed food from mom, and there was nothing I could do. No bottle was going to do it. The dad being around wasn't going to do. There was just nothing that would have fixed that child being upset in that moment, besides his mom, who like had to come back to the room and tend to it. And it's like, there's no amount of care and attention that the dad could contribute that would take that away. And then on top of that, it's like, the dads are not taking on the physical toll of a pregnancy, the risk that comes along with the pregnancy, and then what happens to your body during and after you've had a child. You're never the same again.
It's funny enough because, like, not funny, but like, so that stuff, the pregnancy, the breastfeeding, I would say, I don't have kids, so I don't actually know. But just what I would imagine is that is the most physically trying and intense part of motherhood. But it's also only the tip of the iceberg, because then I think for the rest of the kids' lives, women simply carry the mental load more than the dad.
They absolutely do. You hear all these anecdotes, and people play it off like it's silly that the dad doesn't know the doctor's names or the birthdays or the appointments.
Totally.
That's embarrassing.
I saw this skit, and it was a dad that made it himself. And he's like, when dad takes the kid to her pediatrician appointment, and the doctor's like, so how old are you? And the dad turns to his daughter. He's like, how old are you? And he's like, everything do you have any allergies? Does she have allergies? And the dad's like, do you have allergies? And like, he doesn't know anything about his kid.
They should be embarrassed and they're not.
I don't know why it happens. And also, I know people get so mad when you compare kids to pets. But also, I'm not saying it's a one-to-one thing, but I'm saying that one is like the much, much lighter version of the other. So it can be useful to see how things go between you and your partner with pet care, because it can be a glimpse into the future.
Yes.
You know what I mean? If you're already struggling taking care of a pet together, what happens when it's a human? And I will say, like, with my husband, he simply has no idea what's going on with our dog. And a lot of that is a function of the fact that I adopted her when we didn't even live together. So she's like my dog, you know, and it's always been that I'm the go-to one for her. And I wanted her, and, you know, he helps when I ask for help, but he doesn't know anything. What does she eat? How much of it does she, anything? But also, like, even when like, if we go to a restaurant or something or a bar, because sometimes, and this is like a real dad thing, where dads want the fun of the cute young thing, but they're like, I promise I'll handle it all. But then the mom we'll take the dog somewhere. He'll be like, I want to take her to dinner tonight. And I'll tell him it's not relaxing for me when she comes. And he goes, I'll watch her the whole time. And we get there, within 2 seconds, she's eating who the hell knows what on the ground, because he's just started like drinking a beer and talking to someone, and he's just not. And I'm just like, and it immediately, guess who's actually watching the dog the whole dinner? You know what I mean? And like he loves her. It came from a place of love. Like, oh, I want her to come, but like, caring for something vulnerable takes more than just enthusiasm. It takes like literally having to like put all your mental focus there all the time. And then I think I accidentally train him, because I do, even when he says he's got it, I'm still watching in case he doesn't got it. And maybe he subconsciously knows I don't really have to got it. I don't get it, because she is watching anyways. But then it's like, but I also, we can't learn this the hard way. I can't have you learn the hard way that you always have to watch her when there's food on the ground. The hard way being, oh, she's at the ER with an IV hooked up to her all weekend because she ate 3 grapes.
Right.
Right? I can't afford to let you learn the hard way. So, like, anyways, and I just see that dynamic with moms and dads a lot too. And I love my husband, and thank God we don't want kids, because I would kill him. I would kill what I just described was
with a child.
I'd kill him. Like,
yeah. Did you always know you don't want kids?
You know what's funny? I almost like made a video about this, which is like, if you really want people to have more kids, stop asking them about it. Because I didn't really think about it until people just started hounding me about it. Because I got to a certain age, you know? Like, I hadn't really thought about it either way. And in retrospect, that probably means I didn't want kids. Because a lot of people will tell you, oh, I've always wanted kids, or at least to have thought it. I never thought about it. I never pictured it. I never had a daydream about life as a mom. I never even had, like, not even like a glimpse of an image of that in my head, like, ever in my life. So probably that means no, I didn't want them. But then it was when I got to a point where every doctor's appointment, there was the reminder of the clock ticking, and do we need to look into fertility? Like, now is the time. And then with my mom pressuring me for grandkids, that's when that started to happen, where I like was almost forced to really confront my feelings about it. And I was like, no, you know, I was like, well, fine. If you demand an answer, the answer is no. It's almost like maybe there'd be more chances for oopsie babies amongst people who hadn't really thought about it before if we just leave them the fuck alone. I'm saying I don't want that to happen, but I know we're worried about birth rates in this country. But instead, it's almost like if you have like a boyfriend that you want to propose to you, and maybe he's not sure and he hasn't thought about it, but then you start being like, are you going to propose to me? Are you going to propose to me? Are you going to propose to me? And he breaks up with you. Yeah. And he wasn't going to break up with you if you hadn't started that nonsense. So I broke up with motherhood because of so are you going to.
That makes a lot of sense. And because you've been in your relationship for so long, over 10 years?
13 years.
13 years, yeah. So you have that thing that sometimes people go, because I went through a totally different journey where I was so convinced I did not want children. And everyone who would talk me out of it would go, well, you're going to feel different when you meet a partner who you would want to have kids with. But you already had that happen. You found a partner who you would be comfortable doing that with if that was what you wanted.
But I mean, based on what I just told you, no, I wouldn't be.
No, you
wouldn't. The kid's going to eat something poisonous immediately. But thank God, I just don't want them at all with anybody. But.
And then it had nothing to do with me being partnered all of a sudden that I changed my mind. I changed my mind while single, totally because just my nephew being born and just kind of realizing I feel a certain way. It happened completely outside of the realm of a romantic relationship. But I also don't want kids to the point where I would do it alone. So I'm like, okay, I would only do it if I was in a good situation, if things were financially aligned, if I was with the right partner. Like all those things have to be checked for me to do it. But you bring up the all the chatter about the declining birth rate. People won't stop talking about the declining birth rate. What's interesting about the way that conversation is always framed is that the people complaining about the declining birth rate, who it does tend to be like a right-leaning complaint, they never talk about how we should implement infrastructure to help single women who want children be able to have children. They're never like, we should make IVF more accessible. We should make there be more sperm banks and more education about sperm banks. We should have networks set up so that we have post-birth support like daycare and access to nurses and access to all the different things that like if a single woman wants a child, we should make sure that happens for her because we're so concerned about the declining birth rate. No, it's like they're concerned about men not having babies.
Well, in general, they're very protective, I think, of like the traditional nuclear family with a cisgender heterosexual set of parents.
Mm-hmm.
So I think when you open it up to, we got to support single women doing it, they probably feel that's a slippery slope to being more supportive of more gay couples.
Yes.
Doing and anytime they're like, okay, we'll encourage it outside the box of the heterosexual nuclear situation, then that could be any of the groups that they're like, well, we don't want them. I'm like, you know what I mean?
Exactly. So then it's not about the kids, is it?
No, I guess not. But then in some ways, I mean, then there are other things where they're like, you know, there's like, I think it might literally be called like Project X or something like that, which is also the name of that movie. But Something X, and it is a program that has made family planning services and products accessible to low-income people for a long time. And they have edited it quite recently to no longer include birth control and just focus on pregnancy. It's not like, you know, I only read like snippets of it in a Washington Post thing or something, but it was like the last one, it was very balanced where there was like lots of stuff about how are we going to provide access to all these different types of birth control. There was a lot of coverage on the subject. And then in the most recent one, it's like pregnancy, like nothing about birth control.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess the point being is like, we also know that when you start, so who's going to suffer from that is low-income people not having access to birth control. And I don't know, I guess they're okay with them having lots of kids. So it's also not really about like the quality of life of anyone either. You know, I don't know.
It's not, because those kids, they kind of want just to keep feeding the system because those are going to be like the workers when they grow up. Because if you're stuck in poverty and you're having kids, which is going to make it exponentially more difficult to get out of poverty, then you're kind of forcing a life of poverty, almost guaranteed, on those kids too, which means those kids are going to go and be worker bees at these giant corporations that don't pay them enough. They're going to go be Amazon delivery driver. No offense to Amazon delivery drivers, but it's like a system set up that when poor people have kids, you almost know that those kids are going to go into the system and be like cogs for the economy.
I think like, okay, this is like a separate subject, but I've also been thinking all those jobs are going to be taken by robots. They're all going to be taken by robots.
They very well might be.
If we have Waymos, it's only a matter of time that no one's driving the Amazon thing. You know what I mean? We'll figure something out. You know what I mean? Like it could literally, I mean, can't you see it now that it's just some sort of locker in front of every residence and this Waymo Amazon thing pulls up and just like dumps the stuff into that thing and then people can just come retrieve it? You know, like you would like remove sorry if I gave them an idea and I just got people lost their jobs, but corporations are thinking about ways to fire people all the time and use robots and AI instead. So Yeah, that's a tangent subject, but I have been worried about that.
And so much of it is racist too, because the conversation around the declining birth rate, it's not the whole world. It's certain mostly white affluent countries that are struggling with declining birth rates. I don't think there's a declining birth rate in India.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. I mean, it's obviously countries are always looking out for themselves, right? So it is like obviously, it doesn't do America any good that India is having a lot of babies.
Yeah.
It does, unless they would all like to move here.
Right.
The racists wouldn't like that, but
No, they wouldn't like that at all.
In terms of workforce and
Yeah.
Number of residents we have here, but yeah, it doesn't do them any good.
Yeah, because it's like that their complaint about it being tough on the economy in the future could be resolved by loosening immigration rules. But they don't want that.
Right, of course. I'm not smart enough to like really talk about these higher level things about it. Do you know? I'm truly not. Like I have thoughts of like, oh, but isn't it also hard on the economy when there's more and more people being born into poverty? Because then they rely on welfare services that require higher taxes. But that's probably like a really stupid line of thought where someone who knows more about that could come in and be like, actually, the stats are this and this. So like,
I'd be curious about that too. I don't know it either.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I did just see, I know this stat for sure, which I'm sure you've come across, that women ages 20 to 40 are now 52% child free. So child free is the majority now.
Yes, I did see that. Yeah, I did see that. Probably some of them will still have kids or just delaying.
I think so too. It's so much more common now to be dealing with just like fighting age stuff and be having kids into your 40s because at this point, with how much millennials have had a tough time getting on their feet economically, the ones that do want it, they're like getting married later and then struggling with fertility issues because they're older, and then just having to do, like Ashanti, I think, was 45 having a child.
Yeah. Well, I think more people are also getting to the point where they're like, I actually don't have to choose between like having a life and having a child. Like, because once you have a child, you always have a child, and that's the truth. Like, even if you're like, oh, I can have them young and then they'll be graduated and out of the house at this or that age. I mean, given the state of things, they might not be, but even if they are, like, anyone who's a parent, I mean, so many older parents, I know they tell you you're never done being your kid's parent. It doesn't matter if they're 35. It doesn't matter if they have their own kids. You worry about them all the time. You base your decisions on them, where you move, everything. You make so many choices. You're always thinking about them. So, with the point being, like, if you at least delay and have them at 40 instead of 25, you can experience this whole chunk of adulthood without the load of parenthood that otherwise, if you have them at 25, you just don't. Mm-hmm. Once you are a parent, that is forever. So I think some people are like, well, I'm going to gift myself some extra years of not. And I think some, more people are looking at it that way.
Yeah, it's a good way to look at it. As someone who was born to a mom who just turned 21, I think, and granted it like shaped me, I wouldn't have it any other way, but there were probably parts of her that I could have used more that weren't there yet because she was so young.
I understand that completely. But then again, I mean, like some people are never mature till they die 90 years old, but they're 12 years old on the inside. So it's like,
yeah.
But I know what you mean. Like, age doesn't guarantee that those things develop. But if you are young enough, it's pretty much a guarantee that they have not yet at all. So like, if you give it more time, yeah, there's a chance that they could be more mentally prepared. Yeah.
I just had on, she's a writer, Mel Hamlet. She's done a lot of articles that are very feminist in their nature and very pointing out shitty behaviors from men. Like she had talked about alpine divorce a lot, which is when like men think that they're really great leaders in the wild and then they end up getting their partners killed either by accident or on purpose because they'll just like fuck up on something and they'll go camping and they'll not know what they're doing and then get their partner killed.
It's like a movie that I watched about a couple that got killed by bears. It was a true story. Do you know about this?
I don't know about this.
This couple went camping in this area that's like, it was like black bear, height of their activity season, mating season or whatever.
I bet she trusted him to know and he's the one that didn't look into that.
Yes, and they both got killed.
Yeah, Alpine divorce.
Yeah, that's an Alpine divorce.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But anyway, I bring that up to say that she was talking to me about how a lot of men who really want kids, it's not necessarily because they want the kid so badly, it's because they're trying to like trap the woman. And a child is an excellent way of trapping a woman for life.
That's I don't know, that's like interesting because like to say trap implies that they have like some romantic obsession with the woman, and I don't think that that is the case so much as that they get off on controlling someone else's life.
Mm-hmm.
That there is some sick pleasure in that. So it's not that they're just like, I'm so obsessed with this woman. I worship the ground she walks on. I hope she never really, if you were to witness their interactions, it'd probably be very clear that he does not worship the ground she walks on. And like, it's more just about, if anything, he probably behaves in a way where he's like, you should worship me, bitch. You know what I mean? Like that's usually, I think that's more how those men are, you know? And it almost puts her in a position where she just become like submissive against her will, especially if she's like dependent on him, right? Like if he's the only one earning money or something like that.
Yeah, and if he knocks her up, then she has to stay.
Yeah. So yeah, it's like trapping them into more like a servitude thing, not like a sexy, hot, controlling romantic partner thing where they're like, I love you so much, I'm gonna put you in a cage. You know what I mean? Like not like that.
Like the Joe Goldberg.
Oh yes, you yes.
Uh-huh.
Kind of forgot that was his name. I almost never know TV characters' names, but I do love that show enough that I knew who you were talking about.
I figured you might. What's like what's a response that you've seen that you've been surprised by with the child-free stuff?
I will say that I learn from my mistakes sometimes. Like my audience shows me where some of my blind spots are in some of my videos. And it's just widened my perspective on things. And it didn't necessarily change my opinion in the end, but they just showed me, okay, like I'll just say, for example, I make a lot of videos about child-free spaces. People think those are fun and funny. Child-free hotel, child-free airplane, child-free restaurant, whatever. Usually these things do very well, and a lot of people are like, this would be great. Even parents will say, that's exactly where I'd want to go when we have a babysitter or once my kids are grown out of the house. I don't want to be around other people screaming kids. I'm going to that place. But then there'll be people who will be like, this is actually misogynistic because when you were banning children from a place, you were banning their caretakers, and the majority of caretakers are women. So what you're actually doing is saying this is like a woman-free space. This is a mom-free space. And I was like, I still don't think there's not value in child-free spaces. I think like two truths can exist at once. But then I would also just take the conversation further to be like, well, how about we stop doing that? Like, how about it stops being all on the mom? Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
Thank you for pointing this out to me, but like, I think we should fix that thing you're talking about rather than robbing people of child-free spaces.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
there should always be an option for child-free spaces. I get that it's unrealistic when you're talking about an airplane, for example. I think of all the things you listed, that's probably the most unrealistic one.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen.
But as far as
there
restaurants,
is a plane that does a cabin though.
Oh,
or like part of the plane is child-free.
Really?
Yeah.
But is that like a smoking restaurant where it's like you're going to hear the kids on the child's?
Probably, but I mean, if you on some planes, if they're big enough, if you notice, like you're in first class and there's like a divider thing where you like
I've never been in first class.
Hear what's going on. I've never been in it, but I've like walked through it to get to my shitty economy seats. You know what I mean? Or like maybe I had to get someone's attention and like all the flight attendants were in first class, so I had to open the partitioner thing, and I'm just like, well, it's like heaven in here. It's just like a whole different place up here than back there, and it's just all the sounds. So they can make it work.
True.
But sorry, what were you saying? That it's...
There should just be child-free spaces because you can't guarantee the behavior of a child anywhere, especially like under certain ages. And when it comes to something really expensive, let's say a vacation place, a resort, for an example, people are dishing out thousands of hard-earned dollars for their like little measly 1 week or 2 weeks off that they get just to arrive to a place. And anyone, especially a parent, can acknowledge that it, like, the shrill screaming of a child is going to ruin someone's night.
I don't even know why the parents do it. And that's another thing that some people will say online. Like if I make videos about that, some parents would be like, why? I'm a parent and I literally don't know why I would even waste the money to do this trip while my kids are little. They don't want to be there. And then me and my partner are not enjoying what this place could deliver. Like nobody is winning
Yeah.
at all. And I can even like, I mean, my sister and I were taken to like a lot of really, really nice places when we were little. And that's very generous of our parents. But I got to tell you, I did not know the difference between the JW Marriott and a Motel 6.
Right.
I thought it was just cool to jump on the bed in either room. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I'm just like, I hope that you guys manage to still enjoy it with me being there and probably being a total rascal. Because it made no difference to me, as a kid.
But as a parent, you're probably, spending how much of your time just trying to accommodate to the child's needs. And now you can't do what you wanted to do because they can't go to this thing or they have a certain bedtime. Or most kids are really picky eaters too. It's like you go to a restaurant and if your kids don't like seafood and that's all they have there, now you got to figure out a whole different meal and a whole different allotted time to like get the kid fed. Otherwise, you're being a negligent parent.
I feel like doing certain trips with kids is all you're doing is like maximizing the challenge level of being a parent.
Yes.
Without really enjoying the trip. I mean, maybe like you're enjoying it like a little bit, like little pockets of it, but is it worth it? I don't know.
I feel like going on vacation with kids is like going on vacation with your most difficult friend who like can't eat anything, doesn't want to walk, is tired, needs a nap. It's like
stop talking about me, first of all. Other than the eating thing, because I eat pretty much everything, but the others.
I have so many, like a girlfriend was just here and she can't have garlic at all, is like very allergic to garlic.
That's rough.
And it's in so many
even just like garlic salt would
yes.
Still.
Yeah. It's like, I take her to Chipotle. She can't have this because the chicken is marinated in garlic or the people don't even know. Or then another friend who like, everything has to be gluten-free, but it's like a deathly gluten allergy where things can't cross-contaminate. Yeah. And now you're like apologizing to the waiter because an order that should take 2 minutes is taking 20. And it's like, that's just having a kid anywhere.
Yeah. They can't leave the house, people with allergies like that. And I mean, I feel bad for them because it's a joy to go eat at a restaurant. That's a separate topic. But yes, I know what you mean. I got to pee and sit down all the time. Don't take me to Europe and have a bunch of tours planned. I'm not doing that. I need to just wander the shops and have little snackies when I feel like it and then go shopping again.
Yeah. It's so funny though. There does seem to be a group of people and some of them have kids and some of them don't, but they glamorize the idea of having kids. And I really am like, have you not ever spent time around children?
Who's glamorizing it? People that don't have them?
Yeah.
I was going to say it would have to be people that don't have them.
It would have to be for sure.
Or royal families that are like, I haven't seen my child in 3 days and I love being a mother. Or whatever. Like, yeah, it would have to. Wait, what does glamorizing it look like?
Just being like, I can't wait to do that. Like the trad wife influencers who
I see.
Are not actually a trad wife yet, but try to make that their whole thing.
In their head, it's going to be all sweet, picture perfect moments.
Yes.
Where everyone adores them and it's like, you're the best mom. And they're not. It's like, that's going to be, you'll be lucky to fight for your life and get 3 minutes of that a day. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What do you say to people who are like, well, who's going to take care of you when you're old?
Like, I would say, I don't know. I do need to put plans in place for that. But the question is irrelevant, and I made videos about this, because the suggestion is, if I were to say to that person, you're right, I should have children who I do not want at all, just to have an old age nurse. They would be like, well, no, that's not what I meant. And they'd be like, then why ask that fucking question? Do you know what I mean? Because that is what you are implying by asking the question. You're implying that is a good enough reason. And it's just not, The other thing is we know like that just doesn't guarantee anything. I mean, I even watched it in my own life. My dad at near 80 decided to move across the country, and I barely got to be around him when he fell ill. Like that was like, I tried, but it's like I was like deeply underemployed at the time. I flew across, I put myself in a hotel for as long as I could afford to visit him. And then I left, hospital staff took care of him, like he had a girlfriend who was there too. But at the end of the day, like the care, it's like, yes, of course it would be nice if it's people who know you and love you, but they also can only do so much. You do get to a point where what is requires a professional of some type. So the people who know you and love you are just like a level of comfort. And I hope I've built enough of a community where I can have that without children, whether it's, friends and neighbors that I've become close with who are younger and in better health than me, who'd be happy to be around. I mean, I feel that way about some older people that I'm friends with, where I'm like, when they need help, I'm going to help. Like I have a couple of friends that are like in their 70s and I'm like, what is it? What do you need? You need surgery? Like, I'll bring you groceries. I'll come walk your dogs. Like I'm not their kid.
Right. They've built a community.
Yeah.
It's so funny. My dad is always, he just like doesn't really embrace a lot of ideas that don't align with his. He just doesn't have an open mind about it whatsoever. And so he bought this house that he absolutely doesn't need. It's 4 bedrooms, just him. And he's always like, well, I bought this house for you. And I go, I need you to stop saying that because I want nothing to do with this house. I'm not going to go live in a cold, ice and snow ridden suburb of Cleveland because you insist that you bought me this house.
Like he wants you to come live there with him while he's alive, or like this is you would inherit this house type of thing?
He wants me to inherit this house, but I would also imagine that he has an unspoken expectation that I will come take care of him when he needs it too. Because he is working beyond the age that he should be working in order to pay off this house. Like he is turning 70. He should be retired.
He's imprisoned the both of you.
He's imprisoned the both of us, but I refuse to join him in this prison cell that is his house. But it's like no matter how many times I explain this to him, he just like cannot grasp that I don't want this house. How many parents are doing that?
Sparkling water makes me burp a lot. I like to burp after a serious. Yeah, well, I mean, you're in a tough spot there. Because what are you going to do if he needs help? You're not going to go?
I mean, I certainly can't just pick up and move to Cleveland.
It sucks because it was financially irresponsible of him, right? What he should have done is I don't know what his previous situation was, but he should have downgraded to a situation where he was able to start saving more money because of the housing choice he made. Mm-hmm. Like whether it's like a small apartment that he was owning or renting or whatever, but something small where he's able to have minimal rent or no mortgage depending on his situation. You know what I mean? So then he could start putting money aside so that if the day comes, he has money to hire someone to come help him.
Right.
Like, and that's what parents who really, really are kid centric and kid forward do. Because they're like, everything I do so that my kid can live their life to the best that their life can be. And people will write that in comments too, where they're like, I would never even allow my kid. They're like, I've already made financial arrangements. I'm going to get professional help. I would never even allow my kids to put their life, their aspirations, whatever they're enjoying on hold to come be my live-in nurse. And that's what parenting should be,
Yeah, that's when it's actually a real act of selflessness, because people talk about this a lot where they're like, if you choose not to have kids, you're being selfish. And I actually think the alternative is more likely to fall under the category of selfishness.
Probably, in most cases, more selfish events take place. Or like probably a lot of selfish events take place between child and parent. So let's just say it's certainly not purely a selfless thing in itself either. You know what I mean? Like I need you to come do this for me. I need you to come do that for me. Yeah, it is also kind of like a funny thing where people or parents feel like my kids owe me this because I gave them life. And it's like, right, well, you did kind of like, I was born having signed a contract that I did not know I had signed. I didn't ask to enter even into this business agreement.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it is kind of like, I almost feel like if I ever had a kid, which I obviously won't, but I would really sort of feel like, you owe me nothing. Let's not lie here. I had you because of something I wanted, and you owe me nothing. You know what I mean? Like, if you decide to be cool and loving towards me and the visits and the helping me when I'm sick, like, that is very nice. Hope that happens. But I'm wrong if I become angry if you don't. Because I gave you life. Because did you fucking ask me to do that? No. You know what I mean?
Yeah, none of us asked to be here. Yeah, that's really such a huge part of it. It's so weird when people put their expectations on their kids, but they do so much. And so much of it to me, especially, and I get it's like a biological imperative that people want kids. And when they feel so strongly about wanting their own genetics, it's like this kind of taboo thing that you can't judge people. The way that we're able to openly critique people who go to breeders for animals, and we go, how could you shop instead of adopting? How could you go to a breeder? How could you keep perpetuating this cycle of like overbreeding and homeless dogs in shelters, this and that? And we never spin that conversation and put it on parents and perpetuate the idea that they should be looking into adoption or something else, like when it physically becomes hard for them to like have their own biological kids, because there's that like biological imperative that people want to pass their DNA along. But anecdotally, like I knew this couple that I grew up with, and they both had like a lot of history of cancer in their family, and the guy had like heart disease really, really young, and they were both terribly unhealthy, like all these things. And this is going to get into, I know you've had comments of people being like, this is eugenics.
Yeah,
but they, I remember, were having like a very hard time conceiving. And the thing that I want to say, but that I bite my tongue and don't say, is why would you want to pass on your terrible genetics?
Right.
If you want kids so badly, why would you not try to adopt? I understand it's like expensive and difficult to adopt, but like, you know you have trash DNA.
So first of all, like, yes, I agree. I struggle to understand people who would want to pass on, because I know friends who, like, one of them has a chronic condition that makes his life very difficult, and the chances that their kid would have it is very high. And they did test embryos in the process of having a kid, and if it was going to carry the gene of this, they were not going to, you know what I mean? So they were thinking about that. But funny enough, that's another thing I'll say. Sometimes I put out stuff and I don't know everything, and the internet teaches me. And like the adoption thing, that's another thing that people have told me. But again, it didn't change my mind. It just made me aware of another angle to just know of, where people had said, just so you know, telling people just adopt is not really good, because there's actually a lot of situations where people who wanted their own kids adopted instead because they had fertility issues, and they just wind up truly not loving the child as much as if it's their own, and it's very traumatizing for the child. And it's just the just adopting is not the solution that we think it is. That's what they'd say. And like that, there's, I guess it's like a well-known thing, like in the adoption world, that it's like really terrible situations, and maybe even giving the kid back. I don't really know. You probably can't do that, but like it's a known thing. And like even there's like a whole side of TikTok of people who are adopted, who share those stories of like their parents or people that couldn't have their own kids, so they adopted instead, but they could always feel that their parents didn't really feel like they were their own. They were actually their parents, and they're traumatized from it. But to that, I would even say, okay, well, can I say something to a couple who is infertile, and if they were to adopt, they couldn't love the child as their own, truly? Like, I don't even think they should even have their own biological kids. Like, I'm going to full on be judgy. I think the true essence of parenthood, like, to me, should be just wanting to provide an incredible life to like this innocent being that didn't ask to be here.
Yeah.
Didn't ask for their situation. If you could not fully enjoy parenthood because it's not your kid, I don't think you possess the traits maybe required, in my opinion, to be like the best parent. You know, even like when they're talking about, there's this whole thing going on in the world about like genetically modifying embryos, like at the like DNA stage. There's like companies that are figuring out how to do it. They call it designing babies. And the whole point is that you'd be able to edit their DNA. So you'd be able to see, oh, like this embryo or whatever will have this condition, will have that condition. You don't need to eliminate it, whatever controversially what that might mean. They can edit the DNA so they actually can carry that embryo to term, and now they won't have that condition. And there are some people that say the problem with that is that it destroys the very essence of what it means to be a parent, which is full acceptance of your child, however they come out, and that it's a slippery slope to try to start manufacturing the easiest possible version of parenthood, like in advance. And I don't even know if I get like, I think I like that concept of, yes, like accepting the child however they are. And I think that extends to a child you adopted instead of making. You know what I mean? Like it's, if you're in this because you want to love a child and give them a good life, you know, that's sort of what I think is that maybe that's not why you're in it if you can't do that for a child if they're not biologically yours. But anyways, I don't know how I feel about the editing the DNA thing because, of course, when you hear, hey, this kid would have a life with a condition that's so debilitating, they will be in a wheelchair, they can't use their limbs, they're going to need help around the clock forever, bad quality of life. I'm not going to sit here and be like, no, don't prevent it. It's unethical. Of course, I can understand the desire to that. But it brought up the interesting question of does it truly mean to be a parent, which is being prepared for this kid, however they come into your life.
Yeah, no, that you make such a great point with that. Where's my drink? The not being able to, because I hadn't like really thought too much about this either, but now that we're talking about it, I'm like, oh, that's such a great point. If you can't love an adopted child, who's to say you would have loved an imperfect child that was biologically yours if you're just married to an idea of how that kid's going to be? Because guess what? They're never going to be the way that you picture them. And you could have a biological child that's yours that comes with a lot of difficulties. Maybe they have conditions, if not physical, mental or personality conditions. Maybe they're difficult. Maybe they have a learning disability, like whatever have you, like challenge that they face. If they're unwilling to overcome that, then their intention for having a kid probably wasn't that pure in the first place. And yeah, they're probably not qualified for parenthood. That is interesting. Not enough people define what they imagine parenthood to be and what they want to, like, what they're willing to deal with and how they're willing to approach it and what level of like acceptance are you actually going to bring to the table, whether it's biologically yours or not. Because it being biologically yours, we're probably really, really far away from people having access to this. I think it's CRISPR. Is that the technology that does the editing?
I don't remember what it's called.
Yeah. It might be that because I feel like I've heard things about that. But that too, like, yes, I can see of how it's a slippery slope. But at the same time, if you love your child so much, like wholeheartedly, don't you want to provide that child with an easier life if you can? Because a life of disability is harder. Like, who could possibly argue that it's not?
Yeah. I mean, when you get into that stuff, but you put that really succinctly, just to put a bow on that, I will say, yes, if people can't really love an adopted child because it's not theirs, what that tells me is from the get-go, they had some pretty clear expectations around what parenthood should feel like, and that's not good.
Yeah, because it's never going to be what you think it's going to be.
Not good either way. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, with the editing of the DNA, I think what it really comes down to is like, the concern is probably that we might accidentally edit out the grit required of parents, where we can edit this out. Okay, we'll just start editing every embryo DNA. Nobody will have asthma. Nobody will have allergies. Nobody will have arthritis. Nobody will this thing. We are starting to get into the point of the delusion that we can possibly create a baby or a child who will just never have difficulties. And as a result of that, as a parent, it'll be pretty easy for us too. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And we don't want to that'll never be true. There will always be some shit with your kid that you did not see coming, that you could not edit out at the DNA stage. Mm-hmm. And you need to be as prepared for that mentally as you would have been for this chronic condition, for this or whatever. I'm not saying that we want them to have those chronic conditions, but if those cease to exist, will the grit cease to exist as well in parents?
Yeah. There will always be challenges because it's like I'm thinking back to things that were difficult about my upbringing that I brought the difficulty to the table. It's like I'm sure my mom never thought she would have a weird goth kid that was jumping out the window at 13, running off with my friends and like smoking Ohio trash weed behind the gas station.
Yeah.
Like you can't edit for that.
Right. But can they, what if they start trying? What if they can edit for emotional range?
Right.
For impulsivity, or impulse control? They probably could. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
And then you start trying to edit a child who will have an easy of life if possible, which always translates to things being easier for the parent. And then the delusion persists that there's such thing as parenthood maybe being somewhat easy, but that it'll just never be true. So it's like a dangerous delusion to sell people, I guess.
It is. It's such a weird thing because like the barrier to entry for being a parent is technically nothing sometimes. It's just having sex.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You know, but you're not allowed to talk about this because everything is eugenics now. So
What's the funniest thing where you were like accused of eugenics where you're like, come on, guys?
Oh, well, it all started with one video where I was like, has anyone else ever had a situation where someone tells you that they're having a baby and you're like, wait, I can't afford a baby and you're broker than my ass. How are you doing this? And people are like, this is financial eugenics. They were saying that I was suggesting that only people with a certain amount of money should have babies or whatever. But I'm just like, I'm not going to get into this. This is just a true and funny thought. Well, we've all been like, well, I know my situation. They call it pocket watching on TikTok. They always have their little terms.
Pocket watching? I've never heard that. What does that mean?
Like closely watching other people's finances.
Oh.
Like being aware they spend this on this, their rent is this. I know the place they went to dinner, I happen to know it was $400 a person, like pocket watching or whatever. And sometimes I'm pocket watching my fellow poor friends, also being someone that has to watch their spending. And I'm like, well, I know that you haven't been able to join for the last 8 things I invited you to because you're like, I have negative money in my account. And I was at least able to do the thing. And now you're having a baby. So I have concerns. You know what I mean? Like,
I think that is a legitimate concern for a friend to have. I don't see anything wrong with that. And maybe because I'm a chronic pocket watcher, I guess that's... I can't help it. As someone who has worried about money their entire life, like I know nothing else. Of course I look at what other people spend and I go, you spend that on that?
I also think financial transparency is like one of the best things that's going on right now.
Yeah, it really is. And it's such a new idea because so many people are unwilling to talk about finances.
Yes.
And it's so taboo. And I'm like, can we just stop? That's like the thing before we started recording, we were talking about how people need to be shamed more. And here's actually a category where there should be less shame. And it's around financial conversations because people are still so embarrassed to talk about salaries and spending and what things cost and what their financial expectations are. And that is a place where like we need more light, not less.
Yes, because financial decisions can follow you forever. And we need to know, like there's been videos of people being like, there's all these people I see that drive like this car at $600 a month. And they're always at these nice restaurants and they're always on these nice trips. And they're like, how do they afford it? And then like several people will write in the comments, hi, as someone who works for a bank, they are in tremendous credit card debt. And it's like, it's good to know that because the person watching that is like, oh, I must be doing terribly in life because those people afford all those things and I can't. And it's like, no, those people are not affording those things either. You know what I mean? Like, that's important transparency. So, or what if it encouraged the other person to be like, I can do that. I'll just do that too. It seems like they think it's all going to work out. So it'll just work out if I do that as well. And it's like, you should have all the information. They are taking on a certain amount of risk. You should know what it is. You should decide if that works for you, if that's responsible for you. You know what I mean? Like,
it's kind of amazing. I mean, we're like set up to fail because they'll just keep giving you credit cards. Like, I wish some of the credit cards that I have were like, hey, we're not going to give you this.
There doesn't come, well, but if you have to file for bankruptcy, they won't give you them anymore, right?
Yeah.
But is that basically it?
I mean, you get to a certain point, like right now, they wouldn't give me one, but before that, they gave me a bunch
they'll
that
give
they
you
shouldn't have
them
given me.
past the point that they should give them to
Absolutely.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, they will. And then I'm irresponsible with money because to me, I'd rather always have an experience. So there have been like multiple trips that I've gone on where I'm like, whatever, I'll just charge this trip because I would rather have the trip. And then like just kind of, I always go like this. I go, future Galena will deal with it.
Well, I won't say anything about that, but what I'll say is it's good that you are open about this because there could be people who are seeing your Instagram, they're seeing the trip, and maybe they're like, oh man, like I must be doing something so wrong because I know that like I go to all the same clubs as Galena. I put in all the same work as her in stand up or podcasting, but I guess she's making all this money doing it and I'm not. So I must be a failure. I must be doing something wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's like, no, baby,
They should know the truth.
Chase got this one. I got to get him back.
I have to pee very badly. Could I do that?
You could do that. Let me see how long it's been. We probably could wrap this thing up. Well, in order to help me pay down this debt, you guys should really check out the Patreon page. I've got it linked in the description below, and there's bonus content on there. And let's wrap this thing up. Julie Austin, if people want to know what you're doing, where can they go?
Yes, I'm on Instagram at Julia Austin was taken, and TikTok JAUSTIN327. These should all be the same. They should all be Julia Austin comedy. It was all taken everywhere. Just find me. Just look my name, Julia Austin, in the socials, and they're doing kind of well enough that they might just come up, even if you don't know my handle. There you go.
Amazing. Well, thanks so much for coming back to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Anytime. And thank you, everybody, for listening. Bye.